This is George Dionne of the Rock is George podcast, and this is a KNAC.com exclusive interview with vocalist Screamin Jack Novak of the band Fastest Land Animal. If I knew absolutely nothing about Fastest Land Animal, how would you describe the band's music to me?
Has to be fast, has to have a punk attitude, and has to, try and have a really good pop hooks to it.
I was reading originally it couldn't be below 150 beats per minute, but you kind of changed your mind on that one.
Yeah, well, the first album we did, everything was 150 beats per minute or faster. The second album, I think there's 2 songs on there that dip a little below that, like maybe 130, which is still pretty quick. But yeah, you got to break some rules. What do they say? Break some eggs, make an omelet or whatever. So we were making this omelet, and the album just needed these songs that weren't like in your face. It's kind of, I like listening to an album as like I watch a movie. You put it on at the beginning, you listen to it, there's an ebb and there's a flow, there's a first act, second act, third act. And these songs just felt like they belonged there. So oh, well, who's going to arrest me for breaking my own rule,
Before we get into the current album, let's talk a little bit of how this project came to be. It was born out of the lockdowns. How did you bring it all together?
Well, I'm in the basement of my newly rebuilt house. Not so newly, I guess it was rebuilt about 2 years ago. But at the beginning of lockdown, I was trapped in this house. And my band were kind of scattered all over the country. I'm in New York. Our drummer is in Texas, and our bass player, guitar player is in Arizona, and our producer is on the West Coast in California. So we couldn't, we were planning on touring and doing all this stuff as our prior band called The Cringe. And then I had this idea, because we couldn't go anywhere. We certainly couldn't do any gigs. There weren't any gigs. But we all had had home studios, and pretty decent home studios. And there's a way, with modern technology, you can record remotely and listen to what the other guys are doing almost in real time, and then build on that and glue it all together at the end. And it's almost, listening to the product at the end of what you're doing, it sounds like you were all in the studio recording together, but we weren't. So I said, let's do this. I have a bunch of songs written. I have an idea I never really liked the name The Cringe, but that was the name of the band. It was kind of stuck with us. I said, I always loved this name, Fastest Land Animal. And it was an available name. No other musicians had tried to start a band called that. And I had this idea that it would be more of a punk-based band. Our prior band, The Cringe, I would call that more of like grunge / classic rock kind of sound, like The Who meets Foo Fighters meets Pearl Jam kind of thing. Whereas this is like more Husker Du meets the Sex Pistols meets the Clash. Like we wanted meets the Police. We wanted to do something that was, wanted clever and like catchy songwriting, but everything was going to be fast, punchy. And as long as we're all in lockdown and no one's going to see us because we can't tour, let's come up with alter egos and different names. So I became Screamin Jack Novak. Our drummer, Andrew, became Shark Samuels, and our guitar and bass player, Johnny, became Alphonse Castillo. And our producer remained Don GImour. He didn't change his name. But it was really, the idea was put something out there that sounds a little different than what we did before, and have no preconceived notions of who I am or what this is or who the members are, and just see what the public reaction is to it. And we got, we recorded and released that first album in 2020, early 2021. And the reaction was like really positive. People were thinking, oh, are these the guys from Eagles of Death Metal or Queens of the Stone Age? And, this is like, wow, I'm honored to be compared to these guys and these bands and these musicians. So I wanted to keep it, I still want to keep it a secret, but obviously people can see my face but on Zoom interviews like this. But I wanted to keep it a secret longer than our publicist wanted it to. And then we had an opportunity when that first album came out to go on. I'm friends with Howard Stern's producer, Gary Delabate, and he does this thing called the wrap-up show, which is he does after Howard does his live show. They do the wrap-up show. It's Gary and Rasan, and back then it was John Hein, also a friend of mine. And we had an opportunity to be on the show, but at that point I had to let the world know who I was. So the cat was out of the bag. But we kept the names, and when we eventually, while we were recording this next album, we had an opportunity to venues started opening up, and our good friends of the band Tesla were going back out on the road, and they invited us to go along with them. We'd been touring with them for several years before as the Cringe, and we went back out on the road with them as Fastest Land Animal with these made up names and these alter egos, and it was like homecoming. The crew was the same guys. The venues had the same crew working there. Everyone was like, "Oh, you guys are back!" And even the crowds, particularly, were like the same crowds that had seen Tesla 2 years before on tour. They were coming back, and we were there. We had a different name. We were different guys playing completely different music, but I could see in the crowd, they're looking at me. They're going, "I know who that is. That's that from the other thing." And so it was really it's like a big family gathering. It was great, and it's happening again.
You released your sophomore album under the Fastest Land Animal name January 20th. East Coast, West Coast, in between through Listen Records. I feel there's sort of a outlaw, rebellious theme to this album. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Outlaw. A lot of the songs have, East Coast, West Coast in between, because I'm still based in the East Coast, and our bass player's West Coast and guitar player West Coast, and then in between would be our drummer who's in Houston. So East Coast, West Coast, in between. That's where we came up with the name of the album. But there was a lot of imagery from the in between thing, like dusty border towns and outlaws, and as you said, and cowboys, and even like beaten down sort of James Bond over the hill characters who are maybe a little sketchy and on the lam, and you're not sure if they're good guys or bad guys, and that had a lot. That was like the underpinning of this album in a lot of ways.
I definitely get a strong New York underground sound coming from the album. I listened to your first album as well. Same thing. I enjoyed both of them. If you want to talk a little bit about the singles you have out now from the current album, if you want to talk a little bit about the song Out of Range and what inspired it.
Yeah, George. So Out of Range, that is exactly the outlaw, dusty border town song that I was kind of talking about. And that's why that was the first single, because I think that kind of sums up, not like on the nose specifically every word in every song on the album, but that's kind of the vibe that we're going for. The sort of outsider, he's stuck somewhere, he got there and he can't get home, he doesn't know how to get home, he's drinking too much, and he's stranded, and he's out of range. And that's sort of the vibe of the song. And we try to, I don't know, it's not a blues song, so it's not a ZZ Top song, but that kind of vibe. For me, lyrics are a challenge to write. Like I write music consistently. I'm in something called the Song Game with a good friend of mine, also from Texas, from Austin. His name is Bob Schneider. He's a singer-songwriter, and he's had this thing called the Song Game for decades now. I've been in it for probably 20 years at this point, 18 years. And what happens is he'll send out a word or a phrase every week. And then within that week, I think usually the finale is the finish line is Tuesday. You have to write and record a song incorporating that word or phrase. And it gets sent around to, there's maybe 18 or so of us, other singer-songwriters in the song game. And you can record it on your phone, in a bathroom, in a recording studio, with other people, without other people, it doesn't matter. And you're not supposed to comment necessarily on the other people's songs. It's not about that. It's just about exercising that songwriting muscle and putting it out there. Other musicians that you know and respect are going to hear it. And at the end of the year, you've got 52 or so songs. And, probably 8-10 of them are going to be pretty good. Maybe there's pieces of other songs that are good too, and you can cobble them together. But basically, at the end of the year, you have an album. So I've been doing that, and with the fastest land animal concept in mind. So everything's fast and punky, and so I just had these songs building up, and so the music part of it, that's for me the easier part. It's like going fishing. Like, you gotta catch that hook, that melodic hook, those chord changes, that twist or turn or whatever it is in the song. But once you get that, it's kind of fun, like puzzle piecing the rest of it together. The lyrics for me, I got to work on them. Like, I'll sing a song phonetically. Maybe I'll come up with a cool chorus hook or some cool verses, but then I got to go back and write and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. But Outer Range is one of those songs that the lyrics just came along with the melody and the chords. And they were just really visual. I think for me, it's important to have lyrics that are visual, that make people think of seeing something, because then they're easier to remember and they're more resonant. So that was one of the ones that You're Out of Range. I thought that was a cool concept, a cool phrase. I'd never heard it before, and it just had there was a lot of like layers to that onion. You're out of range. You can't reach anyone. You're in a strange place. You're a fish out of water. So that was why we picked that one for the first single.
Well, does Fish Out of Water apply to your other single, Cowboys in Nashville?
For sure it does. That's that was a song that took me, I think, 15 years to write. Basically, I was in the song game, and one of the phrases was Cowboys in Nashville. And I just thought of, this like punk rock kind of slovenly guy. He's got no class. He's just all about the rock. And he's in Nashville with these like really excellent, proper musicians. And he's a fish out of water. He doesn't fit in. And it's him, whether it's in his mind or actually happening, having this like actual battle with the Cowboys in Nashville, because he doesn't fit in. They don't understand him. He doesn't understand them. And he ends up in jail, perhaps. He ends up getting in fights. It just doesn't work out well for him. So I'd written, that's basically half of that song about 15 years ago. And then I shelved it. I didn't know what to do with it. And we were almost done with the album. We needed like one or two more songs. And I said, I have this song that it's fast. It's actually pretty aggressive, even for Fastest Land Animal, but I think it could work on this album. And I played the song for the other guys in the band and for our producer, Don, and they're all like, absolutely, this is the song. But I had to like write another half of a chorus. I had to write a whole bunch of lyrics for the verses. We had to come up with a whole bridge section, but we did it. And I think we're going to do more songs like this, in that there's like this effect I put on my vocal, which is really distorted. It sounds like I'm singing through a megaphone. In fact, when we do it live, I do sing through an actual megaphone, which is fun. And I like that way of approaching the song. The Foo Fighters did it a few years ago on a song called White Limo, which, if you listen to it, it's like kind of a pretty song, but it's really like aggressively packaged. And I like the idea of doing that. That was, so that was kind of the approach we were going for with this song, which I actually wrote originally before I ever heard White Limo. But, I mentioned Husker Du earlier. They were like the guys who created this really gnarly, nasty buzzsaw production and sound. But underneath all those layers of harshness are these really well-written, almost like pretty pop songs. So, that's always a goal of mine when I'm writing for whatever I'm writing for. I love that approach, particularly for Fastest Land Animal.
You mentioned your producer, Don GImour, a couple times. You've described him as your Francis Ford Coppola. So I assume he's kind of tying up the loose ends and directing them right where they need to be. Obviously, there's something about him that you cherish, that he brings to the table.
Yeah. First of all, I just, we've worked on 4 or 5 albums at this point. I like him. He's a friend, and you love working with people that you love working with. And I like working with friends. I'm, good buds with, the other guys in the band are like my brothers. Don's like a brother. He's like a member of the family. And he brings as you said, he is like the Francis Ford Coppola. He's the director of the movie. He knows sometimes when bands don't have a producer, what they will do is just keep redoing things and have like 100 different ideas, 100 different microphones they're going to use on vocals, 100 different kick drum sounds, 100 different ways of mixing the thing. And you can never stop because everyone's got their own ideas, and I like it this way, the other guy likes it that way, and we're not really sure. A good producer will say, we're done, cut, we can mix this song now, it is finished, and I know of all these pieces here, I know what I can do and put together and have a good sounding song that's going to reflect what you had in your minds when you wrote it. So Don does that. He's also really good at getting me to write and rewrite lyrics and having there be a through line. He doesn't write lyrics with me, but he does say, this is good, but why don't you take this thread of an idea and run with that in this direction? And then he'll review. It's like homework, I'll do it and he'll say, oh, that's good, but try it. So that's really helpful, particularly with the lyrics for me. And then also arrangements. Like I'll have written and recorded a demo. I'll bring it to the band, and all the ideas are there, but Don will take them and rearrange things. He'll say, like, this verse needs to be longer, this chorus needs to be shorter, or like not double, but like one chorus and a half, and then we can do a little clever thing here when we go into this section, which was over here when you recorded it, but let's put it here. That kind of thing. And then, of course, getting the right sounds, whether it's a good drum, snare sound, kick drum sound, vocal tone, whatever it is. Guitar tones are really important. And then for me, the best part of working with him for me is doing vocals with him, because vocals are a really particular thing. You're singing in front of other people. Maybe you're singing this song for the bass, for the first time. It's being recorded, and it's being recorded, so it's permanent. So that's in the back of your mind. So you're going to be sort of undermined by that. And then what he'll do is, when we did this live before COVID happened, we would work together in a studio. It would just be him in the control room, me in the live room. The way we do it now is it's me in my control room in my studio, up directly above where I'm sitting that way and above where I'm sitting right now, and him in Palm Desert or Seattle or wherever he is, working over the computer, much like we're having a conversation right now, George. And he knows, like, what he can get out of me and when he can get it out of me. So we'll do, the most we'll ever do is like maybe 7 takes of a song. Sounds like a lot. Normally we'll nail it in the second take. But he knows when he has what he needs from all of my takes to glue together, or comp, as they say, a good vocal take. And we work really quickly, and I'm really comfortable working with him. I don't feel like weird about singing in front of him at all. And he makes you work, but he's like really kind of zen and chill about it. We call him the Zen master. He'll be like, that sounds really good. Maybe you think you can beat it? And we'll do another take. But we did all the we worked really quickly. Like all the vocals on this album, we did backing vocals, which there are a lot of. We did in 6 days. Like, boom, we're doing 2-3 songs a day easily. And then the only reason why we could have done them in 3 days, but I just want to be careful about not scorching my voice. And so I'm really, every morning I'll get up, if we're touring or if we're recording, I'll do my vocal exercises and hydrate. And just, I don't want to blow out my voice when we're on tour, when we're recording. But yeah, it's really efficient to work with Don. And, he's a great golfer too. So he's got that going for him.
Is the record label Listen Records your own imprint? Do you self-release these?
Yeah, it is. We work through a distributor, but the record label, as it were, is mine. And we're still waiting. It's with supply chain issues. This is the first time we actually have to wait a few months to be able to press vinyl, because we always do vinyl. That's really important to me as a listener. So I want our listeners to have this, whatever I would want. I want them to have it, and I love vinyl. So this is the first time where we released the album digitally. It's out there everywhere you consume music, on all the streaming and services and all that. But the vinyl, we still have a few more weeks before the vinyl is pressed and done. But I think we just got the test pressings sent, so it's happening. But I guess when Taylor Swift releases something on vinyl, all the vinyl vanishes from planet Earth.
And she had like 27 colors, so she needed like extra shipments for that.
She's I'm buddies with her producer Jack, and good for her, man. And if I have to wait in line behind Taylor Swift, that's fine. I'll wait in line. I'm like a deli counter. I got my number, waiting for my Reuben sandwich.
Are you planning anything special for the vinyl? Are you going to do variants? Or are you going to do the classic black vinyl?
I think we're just going to do classic black vinyl. Growing up, I love all the like special packaging and odd looking vinyl things. And in fact, I hear that you can, when you die, you can take your ashes and have them put in vinyl records and distribute your ashes to all your friends and family. It's a little morbid, but I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe doing that. I'm still working out the details, but I'm not there yet. Hopefully.
I don't think they're going to want to wait 6 to 8 months to get the vinyl.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, yeah, I'm just gonna, growing up collecting albums, like especially like in the punk genre, like if I was getting like a Yes album or like Tommy by the Who, there was like a triple gatefold with a booklet, and Quadrophenia had the 45-page booklet with the story and this and that. But Fastest Land of the Animals spirit, at least for now, is more of like, punk rock, DIY aesthetic. So I think we're just going to do an album. We'll have obviously the inner sleeve, probably have lyrics or something cool on the inner sleeve, and just the black vinyl. And you're off to the races. I think of like the Pretenders' first record, that didn't have any fancy packaging, but the packaging it had was cool.
Right.
And it had that like we're badasses kind of vibe to it.
You're going to be heading back out on the road with Tesla pretty soon. Obviously, you guys have forged a tight friendship to keep hitting the road with each other.
We are. I'm but real good buds with those guys, and Brian Wheat, their bass player and one of the co-founders. We both have houses, vacation homes in Italy, and we're like 20 minutes away from each other. So we hang out in Italy. My wife makes pasta for us. We're both happy. And then I get to hang out with him, on the road. And we're going out. Our first date is April 18th in Detroit, Rock City. And we can't wait, man. That's what it's all about. I love the recording process. I love writing songs. There's nothing more satisfying than writing and recording a song. And then when it's done, you're like, yes, it's exactly what I wanted to hear. But then playing it live, especially after a couple of years of not being able to do that, going out on the road, playing it live in front of a crowd of thousands of people, you just can't beat that. That's it, man. That's it. And a bag of chips.
Is your set list going to be primarily Fastest Land Animal, or do you throw in a cringe song or two?
No cringe songs, all Fastest Land Animal. We do throw in, usually do one cover towards the end of the set or last song of the set, just because it's fun and the crowd loves hearing something that they know really well. So we'll be doing like one cover, but all Fastest Land Animal songs from both albums.
What is the future of the cringe?
The cringe is still a thing. It's not like I didn't do the Motley Crue thing and sign the contract. We're never going to tour again, which we were actually on as the Cringe. We toured with Motley Crue on that tour, the final Motley Crue tour, which I'm glad is not their last tour, because I think they still have a lot more to do, and they're great live. But right now I'm just really focused on Fastest Land Animal. I love the vibe of the band. It seems to be working with the same crowds that the Cringe worked with. It's working for those same crowds. It's working for the guys in Tesla's fan base. So, and then we have a really good, on the album, there's the three of us. Johnny Alfonso plays guitars and bass. And then you've got Andrew, AKA Shark Samuels, playing drums, and I do all the singing and keyboards and the rest of that stuff. But when we go out on tour, we bring two other guys with us, Danny and Tommy, and they cover all the rest of the, there's the three of us can't do all of that stuff that's on the album without these other two cats. And they're great. They're good friends too. And they're really talented musicians. And we just rehearsed the other day, getting ready for this tour. And we're kind of a well-oiled machine at this point, and I just want to keep doing this for now. And I'm already working on material for the third FLA album, and so we're just full steam ahead.
Well, I got to say, you won a fan in me with your latest album, East Coast, West Coast, In Between, and your debut album. Fantastic work. Very impressive. You should be very proud of it. It's out now, and you're heading out on tour with Tesla. And those are all the questions I have for you today, Jack. I really appreciate you kind of giving me more clarity into Fastest Land Animal.
I appreciate that, George. And thank you so much for chatting with me. And we'll see you out on the road, brother.